Hello to all my change makers. We're so excited every time we can bring another fantastic person to interview. Um, it's just an amazing experience because we have met some of the most amazing people in this group. I hope you guys are listening in on some of these interviews because they all have something that can teach us. So today we're excited to head towards the western side of the country into Arizona and say hello to Miss Kathy Peake.
Hello, Cheyenne. And anybody out there that's listening, hello to you as well. Hope you all are having a wonderful summer.
Yes, yes. And we're just started with summer, but boy, it's heating up fast. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, so please tell everybody here a little bit about you and what you do and what makes you so amazing.
Oh, well. All righty. Well, I'm the CEO and founder of the Peak Financial Group. This is my 24th year in business. And I focus in on women, especially divorced women, because I find that a lot of times women kind of miss the money memo. And I know that I did growing up. And I didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond when I got into this business 24 years ago. My father was an airline captain and he had a pension in retirement. And my grandfather was a businessman and quite well off. And so retirement really wasn't something that we talked about, although he was required by the airlines at that time to retire from being a pilot at 60. And that just seems so young to me now that, and I know for him, it was really sad when he retired because he really didn't know how to do much else. So
Mm.
I got into this business. I say it was a God thing because I was looking for something that I could make money, good money at, and still be a mom. And I had gone through a divorce myself, and I was looking for something, to keep me busy and make some money and be able to raise my kids and have a career rather than doing just kind of like temp work that I had done after the divorce. And I answered an ad and discovered that it was in the financial realm. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Don't know anything about it, but it just seemed very similar. I used to be right out of college. I was a chemistry math teacher. I have a degree in chemistry and a minor in math. And I figured in this particular realm, I'm just kind of like a financial educator, a mom. And so that's basically what my clients get. They get a mom, they get somebody who's going to listen to them, help them understand. And as I was mentioning, a lot of women find it this world that they really don't know much about. And then as they get a little bit older, and either in a divorce or lose their husband through death, um, or just a single mom that's trying to raise some kids and they just don't know and they get embarrassed. They feel a lot of shame because they should on themselves, as I say,
Yes.
and nobody wants to be should on. But
No.
when you have a lot of shame, especially Christian women feel a lot of shame in a divorce and
Mhm.
kind of close up and don't really want to talk to anybody. And on top of that, they don't know anything. And in a lot of times, the financial advisor that maybe the ex was dealing with doesn't want her anymore. And so she
Mm.
kind of gets thrown to the curb and she doesn't know where to go. She doesn't understand what she's gotten through the divorce. And so she just kind of puts her fingers in her ears and goes la 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 la, hoping that everything is going to work out. And so that's where I come in. Usually a friend has referred them to me and
Mm.
says, just sit down with Kathy. And so I listen a lot
Mm.
and ask them, questions and make them feel safe to tell me they really don't know. And then they hear my story and they're like, oh, I'm like you. I don't know anything either. So I'm able to help educate them enough so that they can make informed decisions and feel safe and secure and listened to. So
Wow.
that's basically what I do in my core business. I'm also very active in my church. I'm active in my community through a networking and an international networking organization called eWomen Network. It's
Mhm.
an international network of women entrepreneurs, and I've been very active in that about 11 years. So I'm connected to a lot of people around the world and really have gotten so much education on how to be a CEO. You know, people can own a business, but there's a big difference between being a business owner and being a CEO. And
Mm.
so I've learned a lot through the founder, Sandra Yancey, with eWomen Network about that. And then about 5 years ago, I got sucked into this group of women that decided to write a book and
Mm.
about their stories. And we enjoyed our time together so much. We actually created an LLC, which is called Empowering Women Alliance. And I'm part of the first book of, and the book's called Empowering Women with Words, Life Changing Conversations. We have our second book that will be published later on, end of July, beginning of August sometime, called Empowering Women with Words, Authentic Stories of Courage and Grace.
Mm.
And that's a whole nother group of women. Some of the women that were in book one are also in this next book as well, but I decided to be more of a support person for Empowering Women Alliance. And so I'm on the leadership team kind of as the administrator, treasurer. And so I'm also very heavily involved in expanding that organization, the books, the networking, Facebook group. So I invite everybody to come and join us there on Tuesdays, every single Tuesday. I put a thread out for people to tell us what they're up to. And it could be a business, it could be an organization that they're a part of, but they have an opportunity to post on Tuesdays, and we welcome people getting to know other people in our organization. We are worldwide, and I love Empowering Women Alliance as well. So I'm all about women and empowering women.
That's a great thing to be. There's no doubt about it because, you've said a couple of things. Earlier I heard you say something about that it's really can be quite dangerous for women if they don't know who they're dealing with in the financial world. And you're already calling yourself a mom, so she's the mom of financial advising for women. That should be a tagline for
Well,
you or
maybe
something.
I will make it that. No, I am a mom at heart. I raised my kids, and for many years, I was a stay-at-home mom, which I was very proud to be a homemaker and able to do that. And I love being a Grammy now, and my kids are now 41. Oh my gosh, that was a surprise when he turned 40. I have a son
Mhm.
that's 41 in the Wichita area, grandson from him that's now 12. And then my middle son lives in the Tucson area. He's married, and his wife Danielle. They're both busy 30 somethings living their lives, and I don't think that they will have children. And then my daughter's married, lives north of Salt Lake City in Centerville, Iowa, and they have a boy that's 9.5 and twin girls that are 2 years younger, almost exactly 2 years, 2 years and 10 days younger than their older brother, McKay. And they're fraternal twins. And Kate and Abby couldn't be more different and still be twins.
Mm.
So I love spending time with them and having the opportunity to travel and do things with them. So
Oh, yeah,
I am a
absolutely.
mom, am a Grammy. I love being. I just got back, as a matter of fact, from Utah, and Aaron and Christian works in a hospital, and the hospital sent him to Switzerland for a conference. So
Wow.
Aaron flew there and met him there, and they got 10 days after the conference to travel around, and they knew that Grammy was at home with the kids, and they got to enjoy their time. So
Beautiful.
that's one of the
Beautiful.
reasons why I love what I do. I
Mhm.
can continue to do it. And yeah, my grandfather said there is no retirement in the Bible. So I don't plan on retiring as long as God gives me the strength and the brains and I'm actually healthier than I was when I was 40.
Wow.
And so I'll just keep going.
I
I know
love
that
it.
there will be women out there that will need what I have to teach, and I'd love to be on more stages and work with more women's groups, organizations to help them help women in the world, because I think that we're at a place right now where we're coming into our own, not in a militant sort of way, but
Right.
as daughters of the king, as women who are special and
Mhm.
designed to be women and to be powerful. Empowering Women Alliance, our mission is empowering women to be fully self-expressed and unapologetically powerful. And
Mm.
I think that it's time for women to start coming out and being powerful,
Yes.
not putting men down, but
No.
just living their lives as powerful women and proud of who they are and what they do. And I
Mhm.
really acknowledge women who are raising children, whether they're working outside the home or they're not, it's totally up to them.
Mhm.
And I don't see any reason why women should apologize for being homemakers, because I think it's a
Mm.
very, very honorable profession
It
that
is.
so often in our society gets kind of downplayed.
Mhm. Absolutely. I agree. In fact, I just was reading an article somewhere the other day about that there is actually kind of a, they say things come full circle.
That's
And,
right.
there's a lot of younger women now who are, looking for opportunities to be able to stay home and raise their kids. And I think that's a beautiful thing if that's what they're
Mhm.
feeling called to do. So
Right.
for
And they're
sure.
able to do it. Some women are not able to do it.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
if that's a calling, I think that's a wonderful calling. I think
Mhm.
raising children is the most important thing that women do, because they create the next generation, whether it's men or women. They're
Yeah.
creating the next generation that will, succeed them and
Ex-
hopefully be successful after them. So I think it's very important that women educate their sons on how to be good men, good
Mhm.
husbands, good fathers. And
Yes.
women also educate their daughters on how to be smart women
Mhm.
and educated women and strong women.
Absolutely. Well, and thinking back on some of the things we were talking about earlier, I mean, I would love to see you on stage telling more of, if that's part of your desire, part of
Mhm.
that family story, because
Ah,
that is so, I think so many women could learn a lot just from, how that all went down. I mean, are you
yeah.
willing to share just a little bit
Oh,
about that?
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my grandfather was an immigrant, came from South Africa, as a matter of fact, and across the ocean by himself as a teenager, and worked his way across the country and decided that Chicago was where he wanted to land, and started in a crew, a construction crew, and built his way up and eventually owned a real estate and construction company.
Mm,
And he was one of those guys, but also an honest person where his handshake was his bond. And so you knew that if you were working with Albert Epson, that you knew that you were working with a very honest man who would do right by you. So he was on several boards in the North Shore of Chicago and overheard and started hearing about O'Hare Airport to be built. By the way, his other claim to fame was that he built the very first McDonald's in Plain, Illinois, and
Oh,
he was
wow.
the construction manager on that McDonald's back then.
Wow.
Anyways, he heard about O'Hare, so being a really smart dude, he decided that he was going to buy some of the land around O'Hare to build commercial, industrial buildings in that particular area, which you're going to find in around an airport anyways. Just about
Yep.
any city that you go to where there's an airport, there's always other industrial kinds of buildings around there. But he leased the land, and he had developed contracts to last ad infinitum. And he passed away my junior year in college. I so wish I could go back and talk to my granddaddy now. Um,
Mhm.
Being a business owner myself, there's so many questions I wish I could ask him, but you know, 2020 is hindsight. So, anyways, he passed away when I was a junior in college. My grandmother inherited um, everything that my grandfather had built. And unfortunately, she got introduced by a family friend to a guy who I don't think he was really thinking about my grandmother and her family and the legacy that my grandfather built. But he convinced her that she didn't need all those various checks coming in. She was getting older. She just didn't have to deal with all that stuff. This was long before direct deposit. So she was getting, I don't know how many checks. Anyways, she decided, okay, I'm going to sell all the land. She sold the land. With that money, she invested in a real estate investment trust, an REIT is what it's called. And that particular REIT was in condos, which were very, very fashionable in the 80s. And so that's what she had. When she died, she left it to my mother, which because it wasn't performing well and it wasn't staying up with inflation, plus my mother didn't know anything about money, and she made some very poor decisions about what to use the money for and take the money out of the trust. About 12 years before she passed away, the trust was gone. There wasn't anything more in the trust. And I supported my mom through the last decade of her life.
Mm.
And it basically only had Social Security and me. I was her retirement plan. And so I learned a lot in, talking with my mom. I really didn't know a lot of this story um, much later in life.
Mhm.
In her life, because she kept everything very close to the vest, as they say.
Yes.
And so I found out a lot more, and even found out that she wasn't even taking Social Security for several reasons. Number one, my grandfather didn't believe in taking money from the government, and he was that kind of guy. And so my mom decided that she wasn't even going to file. Well, just so that you know, you have to file for Social Security at 62. You don't have to start taking it, but at 62, you need to go to Social Security and at least let them know that you're 62. And then you can park it. And the longer you leave it there, the more it increases the amount of money that you get. So if you start taking at 62, you get about 30% less than you would get if you waited until for full retirement age. At this point, full retirement age is 68. I think it is 68, 69. I have a feeling that things are going to have to shift with Social Security. You can leave it in there until you're um, in your 70s. At 70, you don't have to start taking it at 70, but it doesn't compound anymore. So between full retirement and 70, it does compound at 8%. So the longer you leave it in there and don't need it, the more you're actually going to get. Now, that may not be the best strategy. You have to talk to your financial advisor. I have some clients that say, my grandfather died, my grandmother died fairly young. Our family doesn't live a long time, so I want to start taking it at 62. I don't really need it, but can I invest it? And I'm like, yes, you can absolutely take that money if you don't need to live on it. If you don't need it, you can start taking it and leave it for your family. Other people say, okay, I'm going to wait till my full retirement age. And if you start taking it before full retirement, FRA, you get a decreased amount. Does that make sense? And you can't make over a certain amount of money. And so a lot of people will say, well, I'll just work until, or I won't start taking it until my full retirement. And then I'll start taking it at 70, 72. Well, people are living a lot longer. And so that might be the strategy that's best for you. I don't know. A divorced woman, this is a great tip for people who either are divorced or, well, if your husband dies and you're still married, then you can get his Social Security. If you're married more than 10 years and divorced and haven't remarried, then you can go into Social Security, give them your ex's Social Security number, which hopefully you still know, and they will figure out how much of his Social Security that can be applied to yours, and you can, and it doesn't take away from his. My mom always said that she didn't want to file on my dad's Social Security because she thought that it would deplete his current wife's Social Security, but that wasn't the case. Both she and Joni, my stepmom, who was married to my dad a year more than my mom was by the time he died. My parents were married 30 years. Dad and Joni were married 31 by the time my dad died.
Wow.
And so they both received Social Security
Wow.
on my dad's Social Security, if that makes sense. So if you're married more than 10 years to somebody, then there's things that you need to check into.
Holy cow. They just need a mom as a financial advisor. That's all.
Well, obviously, I love educating. Obviously, I love hearing about other people's stories, getting to know them, loving on them. I am registered in multiple states. I think I'm registered in 8 states, and I can register in any state in the country as long as it's, well, I can't say I can register in any state in the country. That's one of my abilities as a financial advisor. And I do not only mutual funds, but annuities, long-term care. I'm fully licensed. And but each state costs a different amount to become registered in that state. So, you know, if it's a very expensive state and you've got a little tiny itty bitty whatever, I'd probably refer you to somebody else. But I'm happy to sit down and speak with anybody. You can always go to my website, which is T as in Tom, P as in Paul, financial.net. And so tpfinancial.net. It actually stands for The Peak Financial. But I found that the E at the end of peak makes people stumble sometimes. And so I didn't want to have The Peak Financial. So I ended up with tpfinancial.net.
Okay. Well, that's perfect because I wanted
Yeah,
you to let people know how to find you. And I definitely invite you once this video is posted to please put your information underneath for
sure.
people so that they can reach out to you if they so desire.
And on that
And
website, there is a Calendly link. There's
okay.
also a portion near the bottom of the first page where you can ask me questions and I can get back to you. And if you want to set up a complimentary appointment, just push on that little button that says make an appointment, and I'm happy to sit down and get to know you better.
Wonderful. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, it has been a joy to have you sharing your enthusiasm for helping women with finances. And please, do you have any final words of wisdom you want to share with our audience as we wrap this up today?
I think the only thing I would say is don't be embarrassed, don't be shy. Women are powerful. Women own a lot of the money in this country and around the world. Women are intrinsically powerful. I mean, that's why God gave us the opportunity to be the bearers of children, because men are too weak for that. Women can handle it. So we I just encourage women not to shy away from getting a good education, taking care of themselves and their children, and finding somebody that they can relate to and sit down and talk with.
Wow. Wise words for sure, and definitely advice for lots of women to consider.
Mhm.
So, thank you so much for being with us today,
Welcome.
Kathy. It's been
Thank
a
you,
joy.
Brian.
And we say thank you to all of our change makers here in Unity for Wellness and Peace. We'll see you all in the next interview. Have an amazing rest of your day. Take care.
Bye.